2A West Road Environmental Impact Assessment. And Brian will ask you to take us through that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it prudent to hop right to the notice. We published the notice on March 15th, which would be yesterday. A variety of papers. We've sent the notice out to many of the landowners, well, all the landowners, many of the people that attended the PIS in August, last August. And if I can bring to your attention some of the acknowledgements in the notice, because they're very important. They're the foundation of how we move forward. One was that the EA is not related to any wind power development. I don't need to refresh the members of the 2 public meetings we held and the interest that wind power development had in relationship to the environmental assessment. Secondly is that any road widening would be based on us achieving and overcoming the problem statements, which is up above, identified areas where we had encroachments, poor geometry, inadequate base, and a need for a slightly different surface. We move on to the environmental conditions. We have to assess the environmental conditions, and that's what I'd like to speak to today, is those environmental conditions. The 4th bullet was that we have regard for road safety. The solution has to have regard for road safety. And finally, that the EA is important, if not more importantly, is the EA include consultation with First Nations and Métis. And we've done a lot of work with SON and the Métis. And the path forward reads as it mentions beforehand. Mr. Chairman, I thought I would just speak briefly as well concerning the work we've done on natural heritage review. And, oh, there it is. If you recall, we engaged a consultant in 2015 to do a 3-season high-level review on the 29 kilometers of road. That work has been done. A report has been generated. We have worked with our SON environmental officer colleagues, submitted the report to them for which they review and identify if there's improvements. I feel confident that we can that report and place it on our website as the preliminary natural heritage report. And in what that did, I refresh and go back, is that was a high-level review on 29 kilometers of road and a detailed review on the northern 4 kilometers. We wanted to get a feel on the northern 4 kilometers and what the more detailed review would look like. So we have got that document. It identifies a variety of specific locations in the north 4 kilometers where there's evidence of environmental sensitive things we have to have further regard on. And that when we come up with a variety of solutions, we have to test those solutions on the impact on those areas of natural environmental sensitivity. Now we need to move, in my opinion, on and do a more thorough and rigorous review on the balance of the 29 kilometers of road. So we need a rigorous review on the 25 remaining kilometers of road, and we need to, for a consultant, a biologist, ecologist, to assist us in assessing the impact of any solutions we come up with on the environment. So we're doing a lot of work when it comes to this problem statement. When you see the word environment, we're doing an awful lot of work on the environment. And what we propose today is moving ahead with engaging a consultant to do the detailed review on the remaining 25 kilometers of road and identifying the impacts on any solution we propose. So also is a committee, I believe, are aware that First Nations have identified 5 areas of concern. They've addressed this in a variety of letters to the county. One was their quota-firm fishing rights. Another was the impact on land claims. The third was cultural heritage, i.e. archaeology. The fourth was SON's traditional uses. And finally was impact on sensitive wildlife species like black bears and turtles. So report that the recommendation for today is going to allow us to move strongly ahead on 3 of those concerns. The fishing rights, traditional uses, and sensitive wildlife species. You may say, what about the other 2? Well, the other 2 are archaeology, and we've got a consultant working on our behalf on that. We don't have the report yet. In talking to him last week, it's imminent. I'm hoping to have that report very shortly. And finally, the 5th area is impact at any solution we may have on land claims. And we're working with our planning department and to better understand where and what those land claim impacts might be. So I'm very pleased to report that the consultant, WSP is where the biologist now works. It's the same consultant as last year. She had worked on her own, but she's now working for WSP under their consultant umbrella, is providing us with a costing to move ahead on our natural environment sensitivities, the impacts of our solutions on the environment, as well as integrating some First Nations sensitivities. The cost estimate we've received from WSP is in the amount of $50,000. My recommendation had been $70,000. Allowing the department to manage the WSP work up to $70,000, because not included in her original estimate that identifies a variety of site visits, I think 31 further site visits to identify very specific elements. Included in that is some SON monitors that would attend with her, and environmental officers that assist her in commenting on some of the SON sensitivities. And so we've come up with a threshold value with your empowerment of $70,000 based on the foundation of a WSP estimate of $50,000. Mr. Chairman, I apologize, that's a mouthful. I know we've taken a lot of time working with the consultant in the preparation of her estimate and working with SON, her and SON, coming up with this proposal. We're hoping to consider it and authorize us to move ahead.
I'll read the recommendation and if you wish on that. So let me read the recommendation that the submission from WSP to undertake the environmental impact assessment on the West Road in the amount of $70,000 be approved, and that as a single source submission, the procurement bylaw requirement be waived. Is there any discussion on the motion? Oh, I got a mover for the motion. Moved by Ann, second by Mike. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Carried. So that takes us on to action item 2B with the McCurdy Bridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll flip right to the 3 slides. You recall for the McCurdy Bridge, a county bridge on a local road, on a boundary road between the former township of Eldersley and the former township of Brant over the Saugeen River. We had 3 potential alternative solutions. Replace the bridge. If we recall, is our master plan had identified that we will be replacing the bridge. So to move ahead in the environmental assessment, it's a matter of where. So we're trying to determine where. That's why do nothing is not a solution in this case. So replace the bridge where it is now, replace the bridge 50 meters further south, or replace the bridge about 100 meters south on the original road allowance. And the alternatives look like that. I never lose a chance to use my thingamajiggy. So this is the existing bridge on the existing alignment. North is up naturally. The 50 meter to the south solution is this location. And the 100 meters to the south on the original road allowance is even further south, about there. So we are of the opinion that we need, recommending that we move ahead with the preferred preliminary solution of alternative B. And in doing that, Mr. Chairman, I do recall our attendance at the Erin Eldersley Council meeting and the Brockton Council meeting. We talked for some time on cost. is I bring you back, I'm sorry, there's the costs. Cost of alternative A, you can see the mix of county versus local cost. Alternative B, again, county versus local cost, and we note that the county cost is lower. And the reason for that is, in alternative A, it meant for the removal of the existing bridge, which was a county cost. So by not doing that, by doing alternative B, as we recommend as a preliminary preferred solution, is that there's less county cost. At this time, I'm not making a firm recommendation that you assume the total cost of alternative A. I'm asking that we discuss it, and you equip me to have that when I go back to the councils of Erin, Elderslie, and Brockton to suggest that council has considered, and we've had discussion that Highways Committee would consider assuming the alternative A cost, which means that the cost for the two municipalities would be less. And I think that is, well, I'm sure that's reflected in the report, in the values on page 2 of the report. Mr. Chairman, I'm not making that a recommendation because I'm asking for the flexibility to return to the two municipalities, yet equipped with having discussed this at the Highways Committee. So to return to the recommendation, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Did you want me to struggle and read, or?
I'll give it a go. I can't get through it. I'll get you to finish it up for everybody. Okay, on the McCurdy Bridge, I'll read the recommendation, and we have a mover and a seconder, then we can have some more discussion if so required. Recommendation is that the results of the comments received through the Public Information Center and subsequent comment period on the McCurdy Bridge be received, that the engineer pursue alternative B as the preferred solution, that the engineer contact the municipalities of Erin, Elderslie, and Brockton concerning the preferred solution and the subsequent cost-sharing arrangements. Have a mover and a seconder for the motion. Moved by Ann, second by Robert. Is there any discussion on the motion? Dan, go ahead.
Just a question on the option B, and the existing bridge structure would remain.
Yes.
It would be retained as a trail-type bridge, snowmobile bridge, something along those lines, and ongoing maintenance would be the responsibility of whom?
Actually, committee had, excellent point, committee had reviewed that at the last meeting, and they agreed and recognized by motion, I don't have it with me right now, is that the county retain ownership of the existing bridge, which would be then, under the jurisdiction of the Municipal Act, either they remove it or make some decision in the future on its future ownership.
Okay, thank you.
But for the interim, the recommendation had been that that the county retain the ownership, and the intent would be to have it at its best use.
Any other questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Motion's carried. That takes us, Brian, to action item 2C, a used wood chipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the report indicates, we had a budget for a new chipper. Our people had found a gently used chipper. We have rented the chipper, and it's been in use for a week. It's very similar to an existing chipper that we have, and we're having good luck with the chipper. And we feel that it's a better buy at $11,500, including which would include the month's rent. And again, the motion a week ago had been dependent on our success in using it. So initially, it appears that it's a good chipper. Our fellows like it. The health and safety is very similar to the original chipper. So I'd like to await the end of the month. Make the assessment, and with your permission, be in a position to acquire it.
Okay, I'll read the recommendation that bearing the successful rental assessment of the 12-inch bush banded Model 200 wood chipper from Brindley Auction Services, the unit we purchased for $11,500 plus HST, less the 1 month rental fee. Any discussion on the motion? I'm sorry, we need a mover. Moved by Milt, second by Ann. Any discussion on the motion? That'd be a pretty lucrative business to get into if you can rent $11,000 equipment at $3,800 a month. A fellow should get a half a dozen. Wouldn't be too, don't worry about it, Ryan, we'll deal with it later.
If I can
That
respond,
was the sidebar.
if I can respond, this isn't a rental company we're buying it from. We're buying from a used dealer. So the person, well, the company we're buying it from, which I think is Brindley, isn't in the business of renting it. We
It's
just,
a different one you're renting?
no, it's the one we want, but we asked that they rent it to us for a month for us to, which isn't their normal course of business. So they're not the traditional rental shops. So it was an action for us to be confident that we're buying something we want.
Well, I hope it worked out for you and you end up buying it, Ryan. Let's leave it at that then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? In favor of the motion? Those opposed? It's carried. So, Brian, are on to action item 2D, hazardous and special waste.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you're probably aware that in the past, the County of Ontario to manage a number of the components of MHSW. Recently, well, about a year ago, there was a migration of those responsibilities, and now a group called Product Care Association has an arrangement with the county to manage paints and coatings. And as we see this migration of responsibility away from Stewardship Ontario, we've recently been contacted that there's a proposal to move more materials towards Product Care Association, and they are for pesticides, solvents, and fertilizers. So we're recommending that we amend the agreement to broaden it with Product Care Association to more components.
Thank you. I'll read the motion. The recommendation is that the bylaw be introduced to authorize the execution of an amending agreement to the Municipal Industry Stewardship Plan Service Agreement between Product Care Association and the County of Bruce. Do I have a mover for that motion? Moved by Ann, second by Dan. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Items 2E is tender summary. Brian?
Mr. Chairman, we proposed the tenders that are included in the summary. One being geotech investigations on a variety of roads. There's a great deal of roads as we do the geotech now to enable us to come up with appropriate long-range capital plans for the future. And for the supply of gravel on one road, or on Road 6 East, and the hot mix on Road 6 East. This is naturally the project between Ambleside and towards Mile May that we started 2 years ago, did more work last year, and putting the finishing top on it. And we're writing letters to all those adjacent landowners so they're aware that the road that is gravel right now will be paved by midsummer. And finally, this was the extended cab. I think that was brought to the attention of committee of the past.
Motion reads that the warden and clerk be authorized to sign the following tender contracts as per section 13.2.13 of the County of Bruce Purchase and Procurement Policy. 1609 County Road 6 East F Granular A, and 1610 County Road 6 East F Hot Mix. There's nothing in here about two extended cab trucks, is that?
The purpose of that, Mr. Chairman, is the authorization is for warden and clerk to sign contracts, and they weren't contracts.
Okay. Mover for the motion? Move it and then we'll have some discussion, Bob. Move the motion. We have mover, seconder. Mike, any discussion on the motion? Robert?
Yes, that $80 a ton, does that include putting it on the road, or is that just for the asphalt alone?
Excellent is our budget price had been 80, and the actual price was 74.60 a ton. And yes, that was supply and applied by a contractor, and Murray Group were the successful contractor.
No, but does that $80 a ton, does that include the price of putting it on the road?
Yes.
Oh, it does? That's.
Yes, yes,
Oh, that
yes.
seems very reasonable.
Yes. Yep.
Any further questions on the recommendation? Mel?
What was asphalt last year, Brian? Just roughly, is it much the same thing?
I know, I think we were closing at 68
Yes,
last year.
yeah, yeah. I thought it was lower.
We've had a bit of consolidation in the industry and within striking range of Bruce County.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Any other further discussion on the recommendation? Hearing none, those in favor of the recommendation? Those opposed? The recommendation's carried. Brian? Correspondence, Saugeen Mobility and Regional Transit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We received the correspondence you see attached, and we haven't spent sufficient time on identifying how best to address it, but we agree that we should meet with our counterparts in Grey County and talk with the group to better understand some possibilities.
Okay, the recommendation reads that staff be supported in a meeting with the SMART Group to investigate a joint transportation services with Grey County. In discussion, better get a mover for the recommendation. Moved by Dan, second by Ann. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Motion's carried. Information items, Brian?
Mr. Chairman, we have the class environmental assessment process that we could go through and identify the stages and the phases of the environmental assessment, and we can look at some examples of where they're implemented. But I leave that at committee's willpower.
Well, I can comment on that, but I think I'll ask your committee members want Brian to spend a little time on this class and planning process. I think we've seen it several times in the past. I think the good folks at home won't even be able to see that anyways, so, Mike?
I really appreciate you including it in the agenda again, but I don't think I need to go over it. I'm fairly comfortable with it. I don't have any specific questions, Brian, but I appreciate you including it in here. It's always nice to be reminded of all those steps there.
Yes.
I think that's a really nice way of putting it, then let's leave it at that for today. Which brings us to the next meeting. Will be held, remind everyone again that our next meeting is April the 21st, and it's being held at Wyerton District Community Center Main Auditorium. And it's in the hope that we'll be done in reasonable time to be able to travel to the annual Public Roads Works Association luncheon and speakers in the afternoon, as education seminar in the afternoon at the Lions Head Rotary Hall. Anything further on that? Good to go, Brian?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Moved by Ann, second by Robert. All those in favor, we're adjourned. Thank you.